let me start with a scene that might feel uncomfortably familiar. A few years back, your income sat somewhere in the low 40s. Nothing glamorous. A modest apartment, a reliable but unimpressive car. You remember lying awake at night, thinking that everything would finally settle down if you could just break through to a higher number. Maybe 70,000, maybe a little more. Enough to stop feeling tense every time a bill landed in your inbox. Enough to exhale. Then time passed. You took the promotions, you stayed late, you switched companies, you did exactly what you were supposed to do. Today, your income is nearly double what it once was. Your place is nicer, your car is newer. Eating out doesn't feel like a guilty splurge anymore. On paper, your life upgraded. And yet here you are, watching a video about money, feeling that same low-grade anxiety in your chest, that same sense of financial unease. If anything, it might even feel heavier now than it did back then. And somewhere in the back of your mind, a familiar thought is already forming. If I could just hit 6 figures, then I'd finally relax. If that sounds like you, you're not alone. I'm Alex, and I spend an unreasonable amount of time thinking about why money keeps promising peace and rarely delivers it. If you've ever reached a financial goal only to feel emotionally unchanged, if you've ever looked at your income and wondered why it doesn't match how successful you feel, this conversation is for you. And before we go any further, let's get one thing straight. What you're experiencing isn't a flaw in your character. It's not a discipline problem, it's not ingratitude, and it's definitely not because you haven't worked hard enough. What you're running into is one of the most reliable psychological patterns ever observed, a pattern so consistent it shows up across cultures, incomes, and decades. Psychologists call it the hedonic treadmill, and once you understand how it works, something clicks. You realize why chasing financial comfort feels like sprinting toward a horizon that never gets closer, and more importantly, you begin to see how to step off. The idea itself is deceptively simple. Human beings are extraordinarily good at adapting, not just to hardship, but to improvement. New circumstances, good or bad, temporarily change how we feel, but over time, our emotional state drifts back to a personal baseline. Huge win, the excitement fades. Major loss, the pain dulls. This pattern has been studied for over half a century. Early researchers observed that people who experienced dramatic life changes, including extreme wealth or severe injury, often ended up emotionally closer to where they started than anyone expected. Lottery winners reported bursts of joy that slowly flattened out. Accident victims described devastation that softened into something survivable. Different events, similar emotional endpoints. That's not because those events don't matter. It's because the brain recalibrates. And here's the part most people miss. Your mind applies this same recalibration to money relentlessly. Every raise, every upgrade, every financial level up. The timeline varies, but for most people, a new income level stops feeling special within months. What once felt extraordinary quietly becomes normal. The salary that felt unreal in the spring is just your paycheck by fall. The car that made you feel accomplished becomes background noise. The lifestyle you once fantasized about becomes your new baseline. Your brain isn't wired to remain impressed. It's wired to normalize and then look ahead. That's why just a little more keeps showing up as the answer. And the data here is unsettling. Large-scale research on income and happiness consistently shows that emotional well-being rises with earnings, but only up to a point. Beyond a certain threshold, the curve flattens. More money still improves options and security, but its impact on daily happiness shrinks dramatically. Doubling your income doesn't double your peace. In fact, past a certain level, it often increases pressure. Longer hours, higher expectations, more complexity, more to maintain. You end up working harder for smaller emotional returns. This is diminishing returns applied to your entire life. Yet this nuance is rarely discussed because an economy built on aspiration needs you chasing the next number. If you ever stop to question the finish line, you might stop running altogether. So, let's bring this down to something tangible. Imagine you're earning a solid middle income. After taxes, you're comfortable but not carefree. You know your monthly numbers: rent, groceries, transportation, insurance. You have a little flexibility, but not much. Then your income jumps. On paper, everything improves, but in practice, something subtle happens. You justify a nicer place. You upgrade transportation. Convenience replaces restraint. Subscriptions multiply. Small indulgences stack quietly. None of these choices feel reckless on their own, but together they expand your lifestyle until it consumes nearly everything your raise gave you. And suddenly, despite earning significantly more, your margin hasn't grown. Sometimes it's even smaller. This is lifestyle inflation, the financial footprint of adaptation. It's why people with objectively high incomes still describe themselves as financially strained, not because they can't afford their lives, but because their lives have expanded to match every available dollar. At some point, it stops being an income problem and starts being a psychological one. The treadmill speeds up. The finish line stays invisible. Now, this is where the conversation often turns extreme. People hear this and think the solution is denial, minimalism, rejecting ambition, living smaller forever. That's not the answer. The goal isn't to eliminate desire. The goal is intentional desire. There's a meaningful difference between choosing an upgrade because it aligns with what you genuinely value and upgrading automatically because your income changed. One is deliberate, the other is reflexive. The treadmill runs on autopilot. It assumes more is better, that upgrades equal fulfillment, that the thing your past self wanted will satisfy your present self. But your present self has already adapted, and your future self will adapt again. You can't win by running faster. You win by changing how you play. One of the most reliable ways to do that involves something researchers call the experience advantage. Across countless studies, experiences consistently deliver more lasting satisfaction than material purchases. Not because experiences are magical, but because they resist adaptation. Memories don't fade the way objects do. Experiences often involve people, and connection matters more than possessions ever will. And experiences become part of who you are, not just what you own. You remember trips, challenges, shared moments. You don't remember your third upgrade of the same thing. And here's the twist. Experiences often cost less. A weekend away can outperform a luxury purchase emotionally at a fraction of the price. Learning a skill can deliver more fulfillment than renovating something you stop noticing after a few months. We routinely overspend on things that depreciate emotionally and underspend on what compounds. That's not just bad psychology, that's bad arithmetic. There's another mental trap worth naming: the arrival illusion. It's the belief that happiness waits at a specific milestone, when you earn enough, when you pay something off, when you finally arrive. But research tells a different story. People are happiest while moving toward meaningful goals, not after checking them off. The anticipation often feels better than the outcome, the process more satisfying than the result. When you postpone contentment until some future version of your life, you sacrifice the only part of life where happiness actually shows up, the present. I've spoken with people who spent decades chasing financial independence, hit their number, and felt unexpectedly empty. The pursuit gave structure, the arrival gave silence. Their brains adapted. The promised fulfillment never showed. So, what do you actually do with all of this? You don't abandon progress, you redesign it. Start with a lifestyle anchor, a rule you set before emotion enters the picture. Decide in advance how future raises will be divided between lifestyle improvements and long-term freedom. When increases are intentional, they feel better and cost less. Next, practice something counterintuitive: imagining loss. Briefly picturing life without what you currently have interrupts adaptation. It restores perspective. Gratitude isn't passive, it's trained. You don't need more to feel richer. You need to stop adjusting so quickly. Finally, shift your optimization target.
Stop optimizing for money. Start optimizing for time. Money is only valuable because of what it buys back: freedom, flexibility, choice. Every dollar that works for you instead of being spent immediately is quietly purchasing future hours of your life. That's how you step off the treadmill, not by killing ambition, but by redirecting it. Not towards more stuff, towards more agency. The treadmill itself isn't evil. It once kept humans striving in a world of scarcity. The problem is running ancient wiring in a modern environment engineered to exploit it. You're not broken for feeling this tension. You're human. But being human also means you can recognize the pattern and choose differently. You can define enough as a number, not a feeling. You can slow lifestyle creep before it accelerates. You can invest in progress, not arrival. And when you do, success stops being something you chase. It becomes something you live. If this changed how you see money even slightly, I'll see you next time.